Bienvenidos, fans of the hottest entertainment on the planet. Jaimé En Fuego here, and this may be the conclusion of my Fantasia International Film Festival 2026 coverage, and it has been a pleasure and an honor. Almost 36 films I had the chance to watch. Now, I still have a couple others after this one, but they're of that gray area where I'm not sure if they're going to end up on the horror show channel where I've been doing all of the scarific stuff, or if it's going to end up here on my personal channel. But yeah, this is a film entitled A Safe Distance, and it is coming from director Gloria Mercer, I believe it is. And yeah, so Gloria actually did a film about 5 years ago, a little 7-minute short, that as I was doing a little bit of research about this feature-length debut, yeah, back in 2021, it was about 6-7 minutes, something of that nature. And similar, I mean, the exact same title, and I'm guessing maybe this feature was expanding upon it, but yeah, I mean, that was that short was about two women, being out on a hike kind of in the wilderness and stuff, whereas Safe Distance, the feature film, has, I'm guessing, just a whole narrative and story kind of fashioned around it. Now, this is actually Gloria re-teaming with Aiden West, I want to say, so also a producer, but the writer of both the short film and this A Safe Distance feature. So yeah, just to give some backstory and without divulging too much, because of the fact that this is a pretty straightforward narrative. You have a couple that is going for this hike in this gorgeous area, I'm presuming of Canada, and yeah, I guess the guy had been there previously because he's making mention of, oh, we got to go on this hike up to the top of this particular mountain. You can see the entire forest from there. It's absolutely gorgeous, and yet this little hike happens after some very lackluster sex is had between the two of them, and you can tell just from the expression on our lead lady's face that she's not feeling it. And now I'm not sure if that's just because they've been in this relationship so long, or maybe there's other people, genders, what have you, that she is just having an inkling or an itch to explore. But yeah, she is definitely at this point where, as we find out without divulging too many details, that yeah, the two of them have been together for a while. They own a house together, all this different stuff, and so they get up to this beautiful view, and they get into an argument, and the argument essentially spills over into the next day. And he's so mad that he just dips out. And so she wakes up in the tent, and dude is donezo. And she had said some things about him that, I mean, definitely, without giving those aforementioned details, would probably cut to the core. But the amusing thing is that, his behavior and reaction to some of the things that she said more or less absolutely validated what she was saying about him, about just being self-centered, narcissistic, all these different things. And so she is out on her own in this forest, and as she is making her way through, she actually runs into, and this is in the synopsis of the film, so this isn't me spilling the beans or anything of that nature, but early before she runs into this couple in the woods when she's hiking around after her boyfriend dips out, it's well known amongst people on the radio, and you're assuming various other parts of the media, that there is a bank robbing duo that has done a string of robberies, and she runs into these two and strikes up kind of a fast friendship with them. They do some they get psychedelicized, to quote the almighty Jim Morrison, rest peacefully there Jimmy. But yeah, so she does some boomers with them, drinking, blazing, all that jazz, and so yeah, they become fast friends. But there is definitely a connection between the two girls, and yeah, they strike up a friendship, and there is a possibility of something more, which, as you can imagine, is probably going to upset the dude who is maybe becoming a third wheel, without getting into too much, as I said before. But one thing that while I thought the acting was pretty strong for the most part from both of the ladies, I did not care for either of the guys in this, and now that's obviously because of the way that they were written. Both of them. There's only 4 characters in this whole movie. There's our 2 girls that strike up this friendship, maybe more, and then the 2 men who are written very one note, very stupidly, very they feel like caricatures as opposed to actually real people. And I've met certain men who are most definitely of that essence of one-dimensionality, and there is nothing to them, and they're like just looking for a hole. What is it that homie says in Mallrats? He's like, he's walking hard, I'm just looking for a hole. Like that sort of thing that Brody says about the Ben Affleck character. Yeah, but yet I've definitely seen and read male characters that were definitely of the negative variety, but had just they were fleshed out a little bit more so, as opposed to being these sort of one note, underdeveloped, half-baked kind of things. And I know, well, I don't know, but I am pretty positive that was an intentional sort of approach to that, and and that's not just coming from a dude myself, but yeah, I thought the performance and the dynamic between the two girls was quite strong and everything. One thing that the script does that whether it's Stephen King, my beloved writer, or anytime it's done in like a film or a TV series or something like that, where you get like a really important piece of information that starts the film, and then it jumps backwards, and so they do subvert some expectations a little bit without getting into that. I'm walking on eggshells right now, but when you have that sort of context, and then you go backwards, and it's a trope that so many different films do, films and television. But yeah, I can't say that I'm ever the biggest fan of when that transpires. And there was also kind of an essence of predictability about the film as well. Whereas, you can have the strong performances from our two ladies and, their chemistry and all of that stuff. But the narrative does go more or less exactly where I expected it to. And so, there are times when that's totally okay, because you feel that sense of gratification when it gets there. It's going there, but you want it to get there. It makes the most sense and all that other stuff. So, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag in that regard. And then, one other thing about the scripting that I kind of had some qualms with is the fact that there is like a very like intensive change amongst like character dynamic, with these three, and I don't know how well it was earned, because this is a relatively short runtime, but that's because of the fact that it's a pretty straightforward A to B kind of story, and so just the full extent of the extremity of the change, I didn't necessarily feel like it was given enough time to develop. It seemed abrupt to me, and even though it was like the logical just course and progression of everything, it still felt like it was a little undercooked in that, even though that's where it made sense to go, I don't know, it just didn't have enough meat on that proverbial bone, at least for me and stuff. But, I will say it was gorgeously shot, especially for a first-time feature. Gloria's, collaboration with the cinematographer for this was obviously impeccable. The location scouting was terrific, because, being here in the deadly desert of Arizona, it's like when I get to see forestry, which we do have up in northern Arizona, by the way. You go up towards the Grand Canyon and whatnot, and you get gorgeous, very lush forests up there. And so, since I'm here in Phoenix, in the valley of the Spun, the deadly desert and everything, yeah, I don't really get to see that as much. And so when I see and it's been in a number of the Canadian films that I've had the chance to check out over the course of covering Fantasia's virtual press again. There is just such gorgeous scenery, such just vast, sprawling landscape of the forestry up there. It's just stunning. It's breathtaking. And that was definitely, along with the performances from both of our ladies in this, like, those are the two big-time selling points of this story for me, was the fact that it looked beautiful, and the shot selection and everything was just very impressive. And also, both of the performances were quite strong, and although I will say, maybe as opposed to the lead character, I feel like maybe the bank robber girl, performance was a little bit stronger from her, perhaps. But that's because she doesn't have quite as much to do as far as running the gamut that our lead lady does, because our lead goes from this horrible fight with her boyfriend to getting acquainted with these dangerous people, and then having that essence of allure about what they're doing, and having like this fascination with it and everything. So she had much more of like a transitionary sort of thing going on, at least for me. Yeah, so maybe it was just a little bit tougher at times, but I'm not gonna like totally crap on the performance or anything like that, because both of the ladies, especially in their scenes together, it was really our lead when there were some essences of conflict with with men in the movie, that things just weren't quite as strong as the budding friendship with the other girl and stuff like that. So definitely not one of my favorites of the festival, but definitely quite competent, and shows, just especially from a visual touch and from the direction of Gloria's actors, the potential for maybe a deeper, more sprawling, more intricate sort of story would really shine the strengths of the process of working with actors and getting great shooting locations and everything along with your DP. So a lot of potential shown in the case of Gloria here, and definitely a filmmaker that I will keep an eye out for. So in any event, I extend the grande gracias a Jaimé En Fuego. You can find Wall on all social media sectors: Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, the YouTubies here. Obviously, you guys know the drill of the like, the share, the subscribe. There may be one more review. I know I still have a couple banked because I committed to one review on my personal channel. That's not even including all the horror stuff that I watch, but one new review every single day. I started with Tunnels, Sun in the Dark, and made my way all the way to the final day, which was Suzuki equals Bakudan. But I still have a few other I don't want to call them leftovers, because that almost feels like, there's some sort of lesserness about them, because that's totally not the case. But, there were a few where I was like, okay, the ones that I was a little hotter on, I'm definitely going to throw that one out there first. But I still have Blaise, which is a French animated film. I believe Godhead is another one that I still have, the special. So there's still a few left to get through. But that's going to do it for this review once more of A Safe Distance from director Gloria Mercer. So that'll do it, y'all. Once again, I've been Fuego. Y'all have been Red Status. And until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, constant viewers. Say thank you. I'm hopeful we have been well met and share more of this palaver sooner rather than later on cinema. And if it comes mañana with something fresh and new, that's great. But if not, it was a pleasure and an honor taking part in Fantasia once more. And see you next year. Adios.